Hello, Matthews Gatos here. Welcome to trigonometry. Before we get going, I just wanted to mention on your title page, we have what is called a triangle pileup, and you can actually, starting at the bottom, work your way up and solve for x. So if you want a little extra challenge, give that a try. Let me know what you think the solution is. Okay, so because we're beginning into trigonometry, we need to make sure our calculator is in degree mode. So the default mode is radians. So let's review again how we do that. On your calculator in the second row, second button, there is this button here. It's highlighted red on mine. It's called mode. So let's hit that. And we're going to toggle down to the third row and see how I have radians highlighted. I want to have degrees highlighted. So I toggle over there, I press enter, and now I'm in degree mode. I can actually see at the top of my screen it says degree as well, and I'm ready to go. So let's second mode, get out of there. Okay, so let's begin with trigonometry. Now you guys have already done an investigation, and in that investigation you saw the ratio of the sides of a triangle. So you saw that sine is the ratio of opposite over hypotenuse, cosine was the ratio of adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is the ratio of opposite over adjacent. Now, a nice little way of remembering that is by using SOH CAH TOA. Well, what is SOH CAH TOA? If I take the first letters of everything, sine, opposite, and hypotenuse, I get SO, SOH, and then cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, I get CA, and then tangent, opposite over adjacent, I get TOA. So SOH CAH TOA is the little mnemonic device that's going to help us remember the ratio of the sides. So here's how we're going to use SOH CAH TOA. We're going to label all the triangles' sides in relation to the angle. So we practice this. Remember, the hypotenuse is always opposite the 90-degree angle, and then opposite the angle and adjacent beside the angle. So once we label those sides in relation to the angle, we're going to see which one of the trig ratios we're going to use. Is it SO, sine, CA, cosine, or TOA, tan? Once you know your ratio, you just substitute in what you know. You can make any number a fraction by putting it over 1, and then we just use cross multiply and divide, and away we go. So we already talked about getting into degree mode. That is in your notes, just in case you forget. Every time you reset your calculator, it goes back to radian mode, so always a good idea to check that. So let's do our first example. So for this one here, we want to solve for x to the nearest tenth. So let's label all of our sides with relation to this angle here of 28 degrees. So looking at this side here is directly opposite. This side here, the slanted side, is hypotenuse. So what uses O and H? Well, that's SO. So that's sine. So let's write that out. Sine of 28 degrees is equal to opposite x over hypotenuse 16.7. Now I want a fraction on both sides, so I'm just going to put sine over 1, and now I have a fraction. So I circle what I want to figure out, which is my variable, and I cross multiply in the other direction and simply divide what's left. So all I have to do is do sine of 28 multiplied by 16.1, divide by 1. You don't have to divide by 1, but that's how you're going to go ahead and find it. So let's do that on our calculator. Sine of 28 times 16.7. So we'll go sine of 28. Really important you guys close your brackets because we just want sine of that angle. And we're going to multiply that by 16.7. So multiply by 16.7. Again, you can divide by 1. You don't have to though. And there is my answer. So I want that to the nearest tenth. So I look at the 8, beside it is a 4, so I leave the 8 alone. So my answer is going to be 7.8. Don't forget your units, centimeters, and that would be your final answer. Okay, let's go on to another one. Solve for x for the nearest tenth. Again, same process. Circle your angle, that's what I'm looking at, and label all your sides. So this x is opposite the 90-degree angle, so I know that's the hypotenuse. The 20-meter side is directly beside. It's part of the sides of the angle that make up the 34 degrees, so that is adjacent. So I'm looking for A and H. and I see that is cosine CAH. So let's write that out. Cosine of 34 degrees is equal to adjacent 20 over hypotenuse x. Put that one over 1, circle the variable. You're going to cross multiply in this direction, divide what's left. So that means that x will be 1 times 20 divided by cosine of 34. So let's put that into our calculator. Now you don't need to do 1 times 20 because we know that's just 20, but if you want to, that's totally fine. So I'm going to do 20 divided by cosine, and I go back here, cosine of my angle was 34, and close my brackets, and I get to the nearest tenth 24.1 because that digit of 2 tells me to leave the 1 alone. So 24.1, again, don't forget your units. X is equal to 24.1, and the units are meters this time. Okay, so you see it's just a simple step is finding the cosine, sine, or tangent ratio, put it over 1, cross multiply and divide, and away you go. Okay, in this last example, I have not given you the triangle, and we're going to draw it ourselves, but the same process. So we have a ladder that's leaning against a wall. Okay, so here's my ladder. Here's the wall. Now, we're safe to assume that walls and the ground meet at 90 degrees. So we'll assume that wall was built correctly. So the base of the ladder, base means bottom, is 5 meters away from the wall. So I'll label this as 5 meters. If the measure of the angle between the ladder and the wall, well, that's right up here, ladder and the wall, that's 37 degrees. How far up the wall does the ladder reach? That's this side here. Okay, so let's label everything in respect to my angle. So I can see that this side here is directly opposite, and the x is adjacent, it is beside it. So O and A, that is tangent. So let's write it out. Tan of 37 degrees is equal to opposite 5 over adjacent x. Put that over 1, circle my variable, and I'm going to cross multiply, divide what's left. So I'll do 1 times 5. You don't have to because that's just 5, but it's okay if you do as well. 1 times 5, divide by tan of 37, and that will give us x. So we'll go into our calculator, and we're going to do 1 times 5 divided by tan of 37. Let me just make sure I remembered that right. I did. Press enter. And this one here, 6.6, look to the right of the 6, it's a 3, which tells me to leave the 6 alone. So it's 6.6, and we'll call that meters. Yes, x is equal to 6.6 meters. And it's just like that. I like to do a diagram because it makes it nice and easy to do. Okay, so that's my little introduction to you of sine, cosine, and tangent. And I have this little joke here, 2 triangles flirting with one another, and the girl says, sorry, dude, but I'm looking for Mr. Right. Well, he's not quite Mr. Right. He's almost right. He's 91 degrees. Everything that we did today is for right triangles, so we need them all to be 90 degrees. So I hope that video helped, and I look forward to seeing you guys for the next one.